The wrong one. It is 9 o'clock, but we do not yet have quorum. So with that being the case, if you all are okay with it, we will wait a few more minutes delay here. I want to remind everybody while we're doing so, if you all could please place your cell phones on silence for us in respect of the other people in the audience. And then also, secondly, we do have one request to speak. And if anyone else would like to do so, the request form, pretty easy to fill out, is down here on this front table by the hand sanitizer. So you can request and sanitize simultaneously if you would like. We'll give it a few more minutes and see where we stand. Our proposal is to wait until 9:05, and we will then begin the meeting, and the items that do not require a motion or a vote are the ones that we will go ahead and cover, and appreciate everyone's patience again. Okay, it is 9:05. We've gotten word that a number of the board members are not going to be able to attend, and that Commissioner May is on his way and will be here shortly. And what we will do is proceed with the agenda as it stands here. We'll talk about that in a second, but we'll not be able to take up topics that require either a motion and/or a vote. And so we anticipate having a special meeting because one of the largest items we were going to be looking at, or I should say one of the most significant items that we were going to be discussing this morning, was the proposed interlocal agreement between the Escambia Children's Trust and the Escambia County Board of County Commissioners that is in draft form, and then vote to proceed on that. Well, obviously without a quorum, we are not going to be able to either motion it or vote on that. So we will be having another meeting scheduled here between now and, is it July 10th? July 10th. So we will have another meeting before that time so that this board can discuss the draft proposal, vote on that, and have it ready for the Board of County Commissioners next meeting on July 10th. So with all that said and done, we will be calling this meeting to order in an abbreviated and modified form. Ms. Ellis, could you proceed with a roll call?
Ms. Kane, Mr. Leonard, Commissioner May, Dr. Northup,
Here.
Ms. White, Mr. Williams, Judge Williams, Ms. Woods.
Present.
Thank you.
I'm going to now proceed with the Pledge of Allegiance. If you all would join in with me, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. The next item would be the approval of the agenda, but again, we are lacking people to do that officially and formally, so we will be dealing with a modification of that. The next thing on said agenda, modified agenda, will be the acceptance of the minutes of the last meeting. It doesn't really require a motion or a vote, but for everyone that is here to have reviewed them.
Dr. Northup, if I can make one note here on the minutes, I'm going to go in on page 4.
Yes, ma'am.
The fourth line down where it says BOCC requested 21-22 year taxes. I'm going to add in the full year, 2021 and 2022. And then
Okay.
I'll also do it just below that, 2 lines down, just for clarification.
Thank you. Any other changes or modifications noted by anyone here in attendance? And hearing that, it will be accepted with the modifications that Ms. Ellis just mentioned. The next item is the treasurer's report with Ms. Woods and Ms. Abrams.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, good morning. Just a couple notes on our management discussion page. There's going to be a couple things added going forward. I'm going to add a paragraph in here that clarifies what our budget is so that it doesn't get confused as to the cash in bank is not our budget. So I'm going to clarify that. And if we look at our balance sheet, you're going to see we are doing good with our cash in bank. A lot of that is from the first year we were in operations. That first year, we didn't have any staff or programs. They had to collect taxes before we were able to actually hire staff. So we collected taxes, and we are now in the process of spending those taxes out from the first 2 years. We have contracts that will totally spend those. So our balance of cash in count right now is that we have roughly $25 million in our operating account. And of those funds, I'm sorry, too many pages here. Of those funds, we have roughly 1.6 million that is not currently obligated, but will be going probably to the child care crisis. We have liabilities of $861,000. The largest one is the contingency to the CRA for the county. We have received 78% of our budgeted revenues, and we have expended 37% of our budgeted expenses. And currently, we have paid $3,770,000 to community providers this year. Our current admin rate is running 8.95%. Tax collector is 3.89%, and program is 87% of our expenses. So do you guys have any questions for me?
No, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
So the Finance and Operations Committee recommends filing of the financial report for the month ending April 30th, 2025 as presented.
One point of emphasis and clarification, Ms. Abrams, is that on the operating account cash balance of 25 million, that is not the yearly budget. It would be wonderful if we had 25 million a year to apply towards the numerous programs that come in, but that is the cumulative amount of funds that are there, the vast majority of which are obligated in ongoing contracts and things, and that the yearly budget is roughly 10 million, 9 million?
So our tax revenue this year, we're projecting to be about 11.9 million.
Okay,
So
Okay.
yeah, the 25 million is cash in bank.
all right, thank you.
Welcome.
Now, our next item on our altered abbreviated agenda here will be public comments. And I have a request from Ms. Leah Harrison to representing Children's Home Society to make a comment. And thank you for
Dr.
coming down.
Northrup. Good morning, everyone. I just wanted to come before you guys and say thank you. Both you guys as board members, I know that this is like a full-time job and you guys are volunteering to do this, so thank you. And also to you all, to the Children's Trust team. I've seen you guys go through a lot over the past couple of years, and the last year has been really incredible to see what you guys have done as a team for our community and for the nonprofits in this community. And yeah, maybe you guys get a paycheck, but you work way more than what you get paid, and we can see that as providers. And I just wanted to share a couple of highlights with you guys from an impact perspective. You guys support our after-school program at CA Weiss, the community partnership school here in Escambia County, and those after-school kids this year, if you tallied up the school score based on our after-school program, it received a B. I think 30 to 40% of our kids got A, B honor roll or higher. 40? Yes. These are things that were not happening. These are kids who really need, and we have a waiting list, you know. We say we serve 100, but I'm pretty sure Lisa lets some other kids in too. I think we serve a little more than 100. 115. We could not do that without this support. And then also our Navigator program. In April alone, we served more than 4,300 kids and families. And some of this is food, clothing, but I was looking through the completed referrals yesterday, and some of these are absence issues. Our navigators are connecting with families, knocking on doors. Some of these are housing, you know, making sure that they have support and a plan for getting utilities paid and their rent paid. So it's a variety of things. And again, we could not do that without you guys. And that number is just from April. I was shocked by that number. So just real quick, I wanted to share with you guys a letter from Warrington Elementary's principal. Do I have enough time to do that? Do I have like another minute? Okay. Okay, this is from Principal Rose. I am writing to express how thankful Warrington Elementary is to have our navigator, Miss Williams. The support provided by our navigator is an incredible asset to our students and families. Through this program, we are able to provide so many resources to our school community through such things as the backpack program, clothes closet, food pantry housed here at the school now, and resources to assist families with everything from groceries and utilities to rent and housing. Beyond that, our navigator helps with scheduling students for the dental van and connects families with sponsors during the Thanksgiving and Christmas holidays. Miss Williams is a core part of our team. I love that. She participates in every family night by setting up a table filled with resources for families. She also greets students entering the building from the car rider line every morning. And if she is not here, the students always want to know where she is. This position not only helps students and families, but it also lessens the load for several staff members who would have to fill the void if she were not here, causing many other tasks they are responsible for to get less attention. Warrington Elementary values and appreciates all that the Navigator program does. So just wanted to share that little impact piece, and just thank you all for your time, everything that you put into us and the work that we're doing. And the other thing that I highlight to people in the community is, yes, you guys are funding programming that has impact, but one thing I love that this team has done is brought all of us nonprofits together so that we can collaborate with each other and ensure that we're not duplicating services, and making sure that we're doing the best for kids here in Escambia County. So thank you guys.
Thank you for coming and sharing that, and it sounds like what I individually have suspected for some time, that the Navigator program is doing an extraordinary job. Also appreciate your recognition. You are correct. We are blessed with an incredible staff, and I say we as the board and we as the community are blessed with that. I think that is phenomenal, and so thank you as well. The next item that we have here, and welcome Commissioner May, is a special presentation from CMB Visions. Is that?
May I say something before we move on? May I speak before? I appreciate you guys as well. One thing I do like about the program there is they have educated teachers, and we need to be conscious of making sure that we're paying people their worth. And when you want those type of results, you have to pay educated, professional, qualified people to do that job. And WISE is an example of those teachers doing the work after hours to make sure those kids are getting what they need. So I just wanted to add that as well. Thank you.
I agree with that point tremendously. And is one of the things that as the community starts looking into early childhood education, that they recognize that indeed that's what it is. It's not simply daycare or babysitting. And again, talking about the requirement of professionals and reimbursement, as Commissioner May has brought up repeatedly, the need to recognize daycare staff as professionals, and a big part of that in getting those people to choose that as a career and make that type of impact on those children is paying them appropriately and reflecting their value to the community and to our children and all as we go forward. So thank you both for that. And any further comments, and my apologies for having it.
Good morning. I'm going to just go ahead and sit down because everything that I was going to say, she's already said it. So it's made my day really easy. I can go and play with my kids now. So thank you very much. Everybody have a nice day. But literally, she echoes the things that I wanted to present today. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Chandra Burgess. I'm the founder and CEO of CMB Visions Unlimited. And that is our lovely logo. I'm a native Pensacolian, and so sometimes I'm often offended when you all treat me like an outsider because I moved to Miami due to marriage, which I probably should have just stayed here with you all. Oh, seriously. I'm a graduate of Pensacola High School. And so actually, if you go to the incorporating documents, my founding board members, they're all Pensacolians because initially I started here and I did get married and I moved away, which put a lot of the programming in Miami. But that was kind of a blessing. Miami is very urban, so from Children's Trust Miami to Florida Department of Education, we were able to get those type of grants and funding, which has given us a lot of experience. Next year, in March, it'll be 25 years for my nonprofit. We'll celebrate 25 years. So that's a great accomplishment and just homebred. So I'm back home. I have a residence here, so please do not treat me like an outsider anymore. I am a resident of Pensacola, Florida. On to my presentation. And I'm not tech savvy. I'm a team of one because summer camp has started, which is great and exciting. And my staff, they're busy with the kids. It's field trip days, so field trip days trump everything. Just a little bit about who we are again. Nonprofit organization, 25 years, currently with operations in Miami, the Bahamas, and Pensacola. Our mission is simply to provide quality programs, resources, and goods to improve the quality of life for disadvantaged youth and families, which most of us do. As she stated, the nonprofit sector, we collaborate, we do some of the similar things, and I think at the end of the day, we just want to make sure that the quality of life for everyone is equivalent, equal, and so that's a part of the vision. We just want everybody. We want to bring to fruition the vision of youth and families to live happy, holistic, healthy lives. And so that's our motto, bringing holistic visions into view, the whole child, the whole family, the whole community. We work collaboratively, and what we do is we use the kids as the carrot. We support the kids, and therefore we support their families, and the community as a whole is blessed and bountiful as a result. Our tagline is cultivating minds of brilliance. And I just want to tell you a little bit about that right quick. They only gave me 10 minutes. My presentation is 30, but I'm going to try to stay up under the 10 minutes. Seriously, the name CMB Visions is my name is Chandra McClain Burgess. So it was Visions Unlimited because there's no limit to what God could do. So that name was taken, so I just stuck the CMB on the front, and you're supposed to ignore the CMB. And you're supposed to just say Visions Unlimited. However, everyone ignores the Visions Unlimited and they just say CMB. Like the movie, we get the joke Cash Money Brothers, from New Jack City, all kind of jokes. So it would be a little embarrassing when I would go to meetings and people would say, what does the CMB stand for? And I would have to say my name. So we had a competition on social media of what could CMB stand for, and we talked to our board members. And we came up with the idea of cultivating minds of brilliance because that is what we're doing, working with the children and families. We're cultivating minds of brilliance. So I want us to put that out there for everyone in case you wonder, what does CMB stand for? Because I get that question all the time. Our signature services, again, there are youth enrichment programs, but we also service the entire family. So we provide, which we have been doing for the last 25 years, even in the Pensacola area. We do back to school drives, we do food programs, we pay bills for families and everything. So we really are a full service organization. Our logo, again, I want to emphasize the logo because we get asked about the rainbow all the time. And it's really biblical, a symbol of God's promises, but it's also a representation of hope and prosperity. We want people to understand and feel hopeful. A lot of times people are in despair, and that's where some of the choices or the feelings come from. But we want to touch people's lives and let them know that there's hope and that they can prosper. And the rainbow's colors is just multiculturalism and diversity. And we know DEI is under attack, but that's what we want. We service everyone. We're here for everyone, and the people that represent the children and families, the youth and families that we serve. So getting into the impact or the update about what's going on with CMB, as she stated, really, we are so thankful for the funding, the partnership, the trust of the trust in funding us. So initially, we contracted to serve, or we proposed to serve 60 kids, grade K through 8, I'm sorry. And our numbers, we filled up pretty quickly. So what we found was that the middle schoolers and the elementary school kids, there was such a divide. And then as we talked several times, middle school, what is there for middle school kids to do? elementary kids, their parents need somewhere for them to be. High school, they can drive, they can get jobs. And middle school kids, they kind of just fall in a space there's not much for them. And our little kids were kind of pushing them out as well. So, what happened? Did I miss something? Yeah, they were basically pushing them out. So, our first location we call Mocha House. If you go up Creighton Road towards Walmart, headed toward 9th, you would probably see a little brown building. And so we call it Mocha House simply because it's a little brown building. And most of our locations, we put the little house name to it. So that's where we started. We outgrew it. We were like the little old woman in the shoe, which is a blessing. So we needed more space. And so we have now relocated to a second location, and we call it His House because it was formerly a church. And it's located at St. John Divine Missionary Baptist Church. You may know of that. It's on the east side of town. So now we have 2 locations. Thanks to the trust, we're able to service more kids. And what we've done is we put the littles at the church. We have the whole old sanctuary, and the teens are now the middle school kids. Thanks to the CARES grant, Impact, Expansion, we now service the teens at Mocha House. And they have their own space, which is really, really great. So the littles, they're the BASIS program, which is an acronym for Build Success in School. And like what she said, we provide after-school services. We have certified teachers on staff, and the director is a certified teacher. So she's absolutely right, you're absolutely right. It's very important to have qualified, trained staff working with the students. And then the TEAM program is the core program, which is an acronym for College Reach Out and Employment. Even though they're middle schoolers, we want them to start thinking about college now, so that when they get to high school, they already know what they need to do as far as community service. They're ready to apply for those scholarships and everything. We want them to think about it now. So that is the focus of that, and it's called Beyond the Bell, which adds a mentoring element to it, so that we get qualified mentors and with their areas of interest to also help them along the way. So as I already stated, the BASIS program, so it's after school, grades K through 5. And when we came into the area, when we got ready to apply, we did an assessment because we wanted to make sure we were providing services that people needed. And the number one service was quality after school care, but the cost. Most parents couldn't afford it. Kids were going home on the bus, they are there by themselves or with a caregiver that may not be able to help or assist them. And so transportation was also an issue as well. So we picked the students up from school, and thanks to the funding with the Children's Trust, we were able to provide van service. So we pick the students up, we bring them in, we do after-school tutoring with them, we do homework assistance, and again, we have certified teachers to help them with their grades. And then also they have a meal every day because they eat breakfast at like 10 o'clock, they lunch at like 10 o'clock in the morning. So by the time they get to us, they're hungry. And often if their parents are working, they don't have anything to eat until their parents come home. So this way they have a good meal, they have homework assistance, and parents, many of the parents were getting off work to go and pick up their kids from school, take them to a program, or take them somewhere, and then go back. So now parents don't have to worry about spending their lunch break or taking off time to pick up their children. We pick them up, and we take care of them until their parents get home from work. So sometimes when other programs, they're talking about all the wonderful things they do, they're building rockets, and they're finding a cure to cancer and different things like that. We're doing the basics. And we love it. We're making sure that the kids are safe. We're making sure that they have something to eat. We're making sure that they're learning, with their homework and everything. So we're pretty proud about that. So these are some pictures, just quickly, of the littles. We have tons of them. We have tons of them. I'm trying to go fast because I know I'm past my time. But I wanted to just emphasize a few. So they're on the stage there, so they love singing and dancing. We have to watch that now that we're in the church. Praise Him. Up top, that's a picture of them at a field trip. So we come in large numbers when we take our kids out and about. The bottom left, We do some level of STEM. We have STEM Wednesdays, so they do robotics, little projects and STEM-related projects. And at the bottom right, their favorite thing to do is they love the challenge of math by color by number. So it's and I love it because that way we get them doing their timetables and stuff. They don't even really know it, that we're making them work, but they love to compete and do those. They want to do them all the time. So I put that picture there. And for the summer, we're already at it. At the top left, those are the boys. We have about 35 boys. And on the right, girls, 35 girls. So we're running about 70 kids. We always over-enroll because we get the please, please, please. And also my staff, they always sneak kids in on me, even though I say no more, no more. It's always more. And so, again, because we might not be the STEM-based program per se, we do, like I say, do STEM, but we get the kids out, and this is where the community collaboration comes in. Last week, they went to Chappie James Museum. Yes, we took it over. It was the CMB takeover. 70 little kids everywhere. They managed, though. They took good care of us, and like we've been out to the mess hall. So if anybody else out there, we will come. We will come in numbers and engage with the activities that you have. Collaboration is very, very important. As it relates to other STEM activities, just so we want you to know that, again, because they're small, we try to do age-appropriate things with them. So this is an experiment they did with mold and bread. So they touched the keyboard and then they touched the bread and they hand sanitizer. And so over time, they were able to see the progression of the mold and how, organisms and different things take place. So we do science-based or STEM-based things with the students. As it relates to the teens, right now we're in summer camp with them, and we have an arts summer camp with them. So they had 4 academies that they could choose from. And so it was like home ec. We didn't want to call it home ec, so we called it home and hearth arts. And it's with cooking and sewing and so forth. And then we have an academy that they could choose from where they are doing the podcast. So we're going to have the first official CMB radio, and it's going to be designed by them and produced by them. And a lot of them chose that one as well. They can also do gaming, so we're going to teach them how to do their own computer games. And then there's performing arts. As much as the little kids love singing and dancing, the bigger kids, well, the kind of dancing that they want to do, they don't want to do the kind of dancing we want them to do, so many of them didn't pick that kind, that academy. So a quick picture. So they already been preparing meals under culinary. So right there, that is air fryer chicken, okay? We're trying to be healthy. It's air fryer. So just so you guys know, little mac and cheese and a dinner roll. So they prepared that. You see the middle, they're at Walmart. They're learning budgeting and banking. So we gave them a budget. We gave them certain things that they had. So they're out already. At the top right, community service. We want them to learn to give back. So as they go to high school, they get those community hours. They're going to need those for college. The bottom, they're already in the studio. You see the green screen in the back. We're so excited that you all are going to volunteer to be guests on the show so they can come and interview you. We're so excited about that. And at the bottom, they're going to be doing college tours. Last year, they got out to the University of West Florida, which is how the idea of even working with the middle school was birthed. And we've already have scheduled to go to Tallahassee. They're going to do FAMU and FSU. We want to introduce them to PWI. I don't know, for those who don't know, it's a predominantly white institution, and HBCU. And then next month, they'll be going to Jacksonville, same thing, Jacksonville State and Edward Waters College. So we're on the move with the teens, and that is through the CARES program. So I just wanted you to know a little update about what's going on with us, the influence, the impact that you're making. So that's 70 littles and the teens right now. We have about 25 enrolls. 13 have already started. We call them the Baker's Dozen, and with more enrolling. So over 100 youth and growing. Coming to the end, they worked on vision boards. I just wanted to show you all, and Nyla in the middle, hers was selected as the best. So we want them thinking about their future. We want them thinking about it now. So that was the first thing that they did for the summer, was worked on vision boards. And I'm at the end, I promise. Barrier breakers, the van. So again, one of the biggest barriers for families as far as after-school programming in general is transportation. So via the trust, we were able to get a van, and that is how we pick up the kids. So I wanted to show you the blessing and leveraging funds. What happens a lot of times when you get funding, that makes others want to give. And we know that all the funding and everything can't be from the trust. We don't expect the trust to fully sustain us, but as a result of our relationship, we now, through the Florida Department of Transportation, we received a grant for a vehicle. It's a 24-passenger bus. It's in production. Can't wait to show it to you. And we will put the trust logo on that as well. And for the summer, we received a grant from the Dollar General Literacy Foundations for summer reading. We don't want them to go on that summer slide, and we want to keep that going. So I just wanted to emphasize that too, leveraging the dollars and the impact from the trust to get other funding. And impact. As she was talking about the grades. So these are kids that the littles, they all S's. There were more of them. I'm sorry, I'm trying to talk fast. I apologize. There were more of them, but I just wanted to highlight a few of them. And that's AB Honor Roll in the back. So the kids, they're excelling. They're doing great with their grades. Because of the tutoring component, parents have started to seek our program out. We only had one student that was retained, but she's in summer school, and we're hopeful, and I'm going to talk to the principal too, that she can pass on to the next grade. So even that is doing well. Again, made possible through the impacts of the trust and the funding that we receive. Last but not least, as she said, we thank you. We recognize all that you all do for the community, for us, that you advocate for us. And if you see on the back of the shirt, we have the logo, and we want to say thank you for having our backs and the backs of the community. We appreciate you, and thank you for the time to share. Are there any questions?
So, how many staff do you have and how many kids do you serve? Did you say 100? Is it 100 kids?
Yes.
And how many staff do you have?
Staff, okay, so you pay trust staff or just staff in general?
Trust staff.
Ooh, 4, 6, 7.
7.
So, like, we're contracted for, via the trust, on our budget, 1 teacher, but I have 3 because the need, you know, we want to make sure the kids are serviced. And I think we have 1 driver, but I have 2 because we got to pick those babies up. So, yeah, so we added additional staff to make sure that we had everything covered. I would definitely make sure that I verify that number so I have the correct number for you.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Any other questions? Thank you, Ms. Commissioner May. I'm doing good. We've been doing a lot of things, so to put it all in 10 minutes, I tried my best. I apologize if I went over. I have no idea. But I just wanted you all to see the impact and just thank you, and that we're growing and continue to grow. And we enjoy collaborating with other providers, so if there's anybody that would like to collaborate or do anything, we do that as well.
Sonia, I want to thank you, Sonia, because I know your pedigree, and I mean, being a law student and an attorney, but giving up a lucrative career in the legal field, probably, you do a lot like my colleague here that serves on the board to take your law degree and help elevate the community. So I appreciate it. I'm glad you're home. And so we'll catch you on the next trip when we're in Miami.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Look forward to it. Thank you very much for the time. Thank you.
Thank you. One of the things I would like to reflect on and point out to the audience here, I suspect you all have noted this as well, but both programs mentioned participation in and the benefits of that participation of collaborating with other agencies throughout the county. And I think that is one of the tremendous things that our staff contributes to it, and reflecting on items such as Michael's Family Resource Guide and other things that get various agencies throughout this county aware of each other and what the work that they are doing. And there's just a multiplier effect to that. And that the work we end up finding avoids duplicity and adds strength and resilience to the programs. And most benefited are the children. And we cannot do that. It is you all that are doing that. And we thank you so much for that. Okay. Now, we have a few items remaining on the agenda that are for discussion and review
Dr.
only.
Northup?
Again, remembering that without a quorum here, we're not going to be taking up items that require a vote. Yes,
I
ma'am.
think we have one more public comment, just got here.
Okay, thank you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Rodney Jones.
Good morning, Rodney.
Good morning.
Thank you for coming down.
Yes, sir. Again, my name is Rodney Jones. I'm the director of NWB Hoops, New World Believers Hoops. We are a recipient of ECT funding, and I just came to say how beneficial it has been for our program. We're in the summer. This is our second session in the summer, and I call it sessions because we've done our first 2 weeks. We're in our second 2 weeks. We've had at least 45 to 50 kids every single day. Wow. We couldn't do that without this support. Now, I know there has been a lot of things or scrutiny brought to ECT's team, but these are hard workers. They don't let anybody get away with anything, and I'm thankful for that. We've had some spirited debates, and Mr. May knows me. I'm a talker, and I'll do that, and they know I'll do that. But it has been beneficial to my program. I got kids from all over the county. Even from Crestview, people are coming over for the summer program. People are coming from Cantonment and Century to be a part of our program. We got kids coming from all over in every neighborhood and across the spectrum when you look at ethnicity. And we're able to do that because of the help of these people. And I say that wholeheartedly. They don't let you get away with stuff. I hope people don't think that. They don't. I'm gonna speak for New World Believers. They don't just let you slide. They don't let you think you could just spend money and not spend it in the right place. They don't do any of those things. And contrary to anybody's belief, I'm gonna speak for New World Believers, a recipient of EST. You got Tammy, who is the watchdog. You got Deborah, who is the backup. And then you got Lindsay, who's gonna come in swinging the guillotine if need be. I'm gonna just be honest. All of them have been a support to my agency, a tremendous support. An agency that's been in service in this Pensacola area for at least 20 years. Mr. May, who sits on this board, is one of the first people who supported my organization when it started 20 years ago. And I'm still doing it. And we're gonna continue to do it. But we continually need the support of this board and this organization who does provide that. Professional help that many of the agencies who haven't been out here as long as I have, that they can provide that too. And I'm open for partnerships to anybody, to any agency at any time. Oh, I forgot about my man Richard over there, the IT guy, who, he gonna go through it. He is. He gonna go through it. If your students ain't been there, all of that, he's gonna do all of that, and I'm thankful because it has allowed me to become a better program. It has allowed me to give a greater service to our Pensacola area, and I'm proud of that. I've been working in these streets for 20-some odd years trying to support kids with intervention and prevention programs. And this is a great support for us. So I want to thank you, and I want to thank this team for what they have done to help NWB Hoops. Thank you for your time. If you got any questions, I'm available for that.
Is your son here?
They are. They're parking the van.
Because I met him I came to one of the program days, and I love the program days where you have all of the community partners and organizations that can network, and I spoke with him, and he was very knowledgeable about your program, and I wanted to tell you that I wanted to stop by and talk to you. I didn't know he was your son, but I caught him in the kitchen, and I was just asking him what organization he was with, and he was talking about it, and he did an amazing job explaining what you do and how you help kids, and I love that he's of a younger age so the kids can relate to him, and I just wanted to tell you he's doing a great job, and he explained everything to me, and I was just like, wow, it was amazing.
Thank you so much. I am definitely proud of them. Most of them are here and are part of our team simply because they were raised in this. For 20 years, they learned how to support their community and how to address issues in their community through me. And as they grew up in it, they became better. And my hope is that they take over for me. And the same happens for the kids that we impact, that they take over for the next generation. That is our goal. So,
Rodney, it's always good to see you, brother. And
y'all
I
already
think
know.
we were there on Ayers Boulevard when nobody else
fact.
was going Ayers but you and I. And
That's a fact.
nobody else was going Truman Arms but you and I. And so
That's
I think that the work that you're doing is great. And it's always good to have executive directors, as I often say, that's not afraid to get in the bus, drive the van, and go in the hood to help the kids. So you've done that for years. You've proven it to me. So, I'm going to always be here to support you, brother.
I know you are. You've been there since the first day, and I appreciate it. And now I appreciate this team, this board, and this staff. So thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you for bringing your kiddos here.
Thank you, Rodney. The work you do, all this, I'm sitting up here with an ear-to-ear grin. This is exactly what this trust was developed for. And hearing these impact statements and the collaboration it's generating so that is much more than just the dollars that we are able to steward back out to you all, but the programs that you all are developing, the relationships you all are developing, the work you are doing that expands so much beyond just the funding, but certainly recognizing the vital role of that.
Commissioner May, will you make sure you tell your other commissioners about this when you meet with them next and how much the trust has impacted their lives?
Obviously, my commissioners don't listen at me, Ms. White, but I mean, and that's fine. But this is what I am going to do, because I mean, you're probably the only one here that has the means to do it. Rodney, thank you for bringing these kids. If y'all hang around to this afternoon, Miss Stephanie's going to buy y'all dinner at Jackson's. I mean, so let's make that happen. It'll be the first time at Jackson. Well, just as long as you pick.
I was
No,
gonna
no,
say,
no,
I think
we-
Ms.
we
Woods
see the
is over
good
here
work,
wondering if there's an age limit on participating in these programs, and she sounds like she's ready to sign up herself and her son, so.
Sometimes it's just not on age, it's on mental capacity. And so, I mean, so when you do the aptitude test, I mean, if you qualify, they'll probably let you in.
All right. Skipping down again on the agenda, we're able to continue with today. We have 2 items for discussion, one on summer workshops, and I have Ms. Cannon's name by that, and then a reminder from Tammy to all of us on the board regarding our financial disclosures. So, Lindsay, anything you?
Yes, so Alma is working with you all to schedule a date. I think we're going to have to do it in July. Now we're going to need to definitely postpone this meeting and have it again in June when we can have the full board here. But we are going to need to be looking at it from a financial perspective, what we currently have and how TME has projected this out for the next 5 years. It'll be impactful. We do have our mental health contract coming up in '26, as well as OST. They're going to be ending, and so having some discussion about what lines of business we want to continue doing those, and also what sort of dollar amount, bless you, what sort of dollar amount we would like to put to that, knowing what this looks like as far as a moving target, because it is a moving target. It changes all the time. So we will be putting that together. We definitely need a concentrated amount of time out of you all, just because it's really going to push our future direction. Any questions about that or anything else that you'd like for us to bring to that workshop?
I guess, where will we, is it Alma that will be charged primarily with trying to coordinate? It's going to be herding the cats here a bit, I'm sure, trying to get everyone together in the best date things. Okay. Okay. And you anticipate in July is our, somewhere in that month?
Yes, we would
working
need
on-
to do that in July, and certainly as we look at our trim process and all of that too, we're going to need to, we need to make some big decisions.
Okay. And then if we do think of any items, could we just let Alma know or whatever? So for any of the
Absolutely.
board members and/or others. I'm going to probably, without having checked with the boss over here, going to make a comment. If there's anyone in the audience, any of the program participants, whomever, again, we are here to help support you all in providing services to the kids. If there are items that you all can think of that would be helpful for us to be aware of and to deal with, that would be helpful to you all in providing these services, I, for one, would love to hear that and perhaps consider those as kind of open items for discussion or that type of thing. Because again, this organization exists through the graces of you all as the taxpayers and the providers and others throughout the community. And we want to make sure we're helping you address your needs to better serve the children. So I would open that up. And Ms. Ellis, if I create a landslide for you with that, then I'll let you pass that on to Ms. White over here. Okay, the Tammy comments.
Thank you. The ethics training, I still have 2 board members that have not sent me their certificates. I will get with each of you individually to make sure that you have completed that training. And financial disclosures are due by June 30th. You don't have to send me your disclosure after you do it. I get notices from the state as to who does them. So I will be following up with anybody who has not completed those towards the middle of the month. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, 2 items in regards to programs. One regarding site visits from Deborah. I think Rodney defined you as the backup. Or
The backup.
Yeah.
Good morning, board, providers, and awesome participants. This has been an amazing year. Coming up on 1 year on June 25th. It's been fast and furious and very exciting. I look at all the reports that go out, and Rick just did a very extensive report that has all of our programs, each of their numbers for out-of-school time. You know, they're in year 3. For mental health, they're in year 2, and just a myriad of the others. And when I look at this paper, it's just numbers, right? It doesn't really tell a true picture of what we see listening to them today. All of the work, the extensive work that goes into planning daily and also for the futures of the children and families in our community. So we're going to continue that with looking at the qualitative pieces. We've got a lot of quantitative data without really knowing the stories and seeing the work in action, the boots on the ground. It's really hard to describe what we see on a consistent basis. The parade of providers has been for them, but selfishly for me as well, embarking on the nonprofit world for the first time after almost 30 years in education has really been an eye-opening experience. The people that I've met along the way, certainly our hardworking staff, but looking at where we are and meeting the basic needs for children, as well as preparing them and exposing them to their potential futures. That is a lot, and we can say with great confidence that our programs do that because we see them. We're going to continue that work this summer. We've already started some program visits as of yesterday. We definitely want to see all of the new cares. You know, it's too soon to do an audit for them, but we want to see what they're doing in their summer programs, and they've already started with, they're with about 2 weeks in, as Rodney stated. Also, we're going to do our audit, so it'll be myself, Michael, Rick, and Ms. Alma, and we will do those visits and looking to see on our out-of-school time, since they're in year 3, we should see a lot of documentation and real work with confidence that we can report those numbers with the quantitative and qualitative assurances. I will also work, and Rick and I were talking about this, just looking at creating our own system. It's been a whole year in collaborating with the state, and they've not come up with just a model for Florida. So we're going to take those steps in creating that ourselves. So we will hopefully be finished with that as far as bringing that to you all. And then when we have our September Parade of Providers, being able to show them and walk them through that quality assurance childcare rating system. So we'll bring that to you all so you all can see it. And that way we can have all of that documentation about the qualitative outstanding innovation that we see, and also backed up with the quantitative measures and clear performance areas that we'll be able to share with the public as well. So we'll have a very busy summer. Excited about the future of the trust. We do have a future, contrary to what we're hearing, and we're ready to do the work. So it's been amazing. I love that Rodney spoke to our spirited conversations. But we do that out of love. We pour into our programs so that they can continue to thrive. So it's more than just the funding aspect of what we do. It's also pouring into our programs so they can continue to be successful. So thank you for the opportunity to be here. Excited about the next year.
Wonderful.
Yes.
And we thank you, all of the staff, and you individually, celebrating your one-year anniversary coming up here on. Thank you for your innumerable contributions. Any other comments? The next item is from Michael regarding community outreach, my favorite word, collaboratives. So, Michael.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So June has been a very busy month already, just within 10 days for us here at ECT. This weekend, the ECT staff participated in the Disaster Dash 5K that was put on by Brace, and they ensure that Escambia County is, prepared for any disaster that may come our way. We also attended on Saturday the Early Learning Coalition Sneaker Ball for our VPK graduates, and it was an awesome event. There were some great outfits, great music. It was a great event overall. Also, this Saturday, June 14th, the ECT staff, we will be attending the 4th annual Juneteenth, a family reunion for the Culture Festival, and that is put on by the Watson Family Foundation. We will be there from 12 to 6 p.m. Also, on June 19th, we will be at the Juneteenth Unity Fest from 12 to 4 p.m., and that will be held at Adoration for a New Beginning Church. And on June 28th, we will be partnering with the Boys and Girls Club and attending their June Jam at their Inglewood site, and that will be from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. So if you guys are free, come see us. We have resource guides available at those events. We also have them available at our office. So if you would like to come pick up some boxes of resource guides, just contact myself or Miss Alma. We can get those to you. And I also want to thank Andrews Institute for putting those resource guides in the athletes' bags who received physicals this weekend. That was really huge for them to do that for us. So thank you to Andrews Institute.
Michael, you're a busy man, and getting things out and about, we certainly appreciate that. I love some of the names that have been discussed this morning, June Jam, and I don't know, Chandra, where you come up with your acronyms and things that you use, I think are wonderful. So that is great to hear. Questions or comments?
Michael, will you send me all those dates? Will you email those to us? Thank you.
The last item, again, we're not going to be able to go into a big discussion. It was to be our primary discussion for this meeting, but in a way, I'm glad that we certainly heard of a lot of other success stories and impacts and things out here. But it's going to do with reviewing the interlocal agreement between the children, or the proposed draft interlocal agreement between the Escambia Children's Trust and the Escambia County Board of Commission. And then after said discussion, anticipating that we will have a vote of this board to pass on to the Board of County Commission. One thing I would like to do, I'm going to use a brief bit of chairman's prerogative here, is to read a definition which I think for all of us to keep in mind, and Commissioner, for you to perhaps share with the members of the Board of County Commissioners this concept of something called civil discourse. And those of you all in Civics 101 and other items of education may have heard of it, but I'm reading this directly. This is not my phrasing, but it's the definition. A process of discussion or dialogue on matters of public concern, characterized by respectful and productive communication. It involves a mutual airing of views with the aim of promoting understanding and seeking common ground rather than just winning an argument. And I would encourage us all to keep that concept in mind as we continue these discussions, whether it be with the city, the county, even providers and others, that this mutual discussion, in my humble opinion, paying perhaps more attention to what is being said and discussed or presented and reflected on, and hearing that and learning about it. I know we've got timelines that we need to be considerate of in our time and your time at this point, but I think it's this collaborative, productive, respectful discussion that needs to take place as we consider our responsibility to you all as the taxpayers and to the children as the recipients of services and things, and that we come to common understanding and agreement with the best way to do that job. So that I'm open to other comments.
Thank you, Dr. Northrup. We had a program committee about 2 weeks ago, maybe 2.5 weeks ago, when we spent an hour and a half discussing the last county commission meeting, and it was a long program committee. Not many people were there in attendance, but I feel like we rehashed everything that was said at the county commission meeting, how upset we were with how some of the commissioners treated some of our own members of our board. But we did come back and we approved to do a 3-year or 3 or 4 year interlocal agreement with the county, and I know that Meredith worked hard on our agreement and was sent to the county yesterday, or I don't know when it was sent, but she sent it. They sent it back to us. And I do have a question as to some of the stuff that Meredith, I would like you to go back and we were going to work with the TIF funds and go ahead and pay them back the TIF funds the taxes that for the past 3 years, as long as they would do it to children's services, which is what we're required to do by law. But they came back, I don't know who sent this back, but someone sent it back and included infrastructure improvements related to the provision of such services. So my question is, what exactly is an infrastructure improvement? Is that, because I know by statute, we're only allowed to provide services. And so I would like just clarification on what exactly that means, because we can't, change what the statute says. So Meredith, if you could go back and ask the attorneys over there what that means, just so that we're in compliance with our statute.
Sure, I'm happy to do that. Just briefly, to address that phrase that was added. So the changes made to the draft were made by the county attorney's office. My understanding is that, they worked with their chair or their board members to come up with these changes. I did speak to Kristen Huell with the county attorney's office specifically about the insertion of infrastructure improvements related to the provision of such services. What she described to me was an example of if the county were to fund a youth sports program and say the, ball field or, they needed something like that, that's what she was contemplating. But I've had the conversation with your executive director because, the term infrastructure improvements is not limited in the way it's included in this agreement. And so I believe as written, it would allow for pretty broad, it's a pretty broad and vague phrase. And so it may allow for other purchases outside of what you're contemplating.
Mr. Chair, So I don't know who Christian talked to. If she said Board of County Commissioners, because I didn't talk to anybody. I hadn't even read it. So the first I've actually heard of it was Lindsay today, and she said an email came from Meredith. I didn't read that email either. We've been kind of busy. So I have not read any of it, so I don't know the response back to commissioners, and maybe it was ran by the chair. I mean, I don't know, but it takes 3 or 5 to get anything done at the county. I would say I think that was a great compromise. You know, full disclosure, I serve on both boards, and I try to represent both boards to the best of my ability. I think that it should be all-inclusive of programming. And if programming meant that we're going to buy a basketball goal or we're going to buy some equipment, just like if we allow for any of our providers to buy a bus or a van or any of that type of equipment, I think that we just can't get caught up in being tunnel vision on it. We have to keep the scope as broad as possible, as long as it is constitutionally correct and legally right. And so I think that we're moving in the right direction. I think I've advocated, you know, on both sides for this board on what's important. I do see, you know, the importance of having lights and cameras and infrastructure and blighted areas in which CRAs and TIFs were created for. There's no question why they were not created. And if they don't get funding, then neighborhoods will continue to deteriorate. And no matter how good the programming is, if children can't walk to the playground, if they can't get to community centers and they're unsafe, they're never going to go anywhere. So I get that. But I do like the idea of just dedicating all of this money to children. And so, you know, I put on my county hat. I would say today there's probably over 2,000 children being served in block. I'm going to a block by block today when I leave here, and they got 250 kids in their summer employment and probably 600 kids in their summer program. So I think that we can work together because the county is servicing children. The Children's Trust is serving children, and we're all doing good work. And quite frankly, I think we've gotten caught up in the politics of this way too much because it's sensationalized. And quite frankly, it hits media outlets in which, you know, it sells papers and it gets clicks. And as long as we continue to get this debate, that's what we're going to get. And if we don't soon find a resolution, we're going to just keep going on and on and on because of, quite frankly, the politics of what happens when it gets sensationalized. So I hope that Meredith can work with our attorney, Stephanie, and so when it refers to the commissioners, then, you know, we can refer individually as a chairman, but when it says commissioners, then I'm all inclusive of that number. And so I've not had that conversation, nor have I had that conversation, but I've been pretty consistent in my position of what I support and how I'm going to support it, whether I'm here and whether I'm there. And any, as our friend Neil Nash says, any good negotiation means everybody gives up something. And I think that the trust and the county have to come to some type of resolution. I thought what you presented was fair and equitable. I was not in the meeting, and I think that that's going to go. I just don't want to get caught up in the legalities. And I love Meredith, but lawyers love a lot of back and forth. I mean, you're one of them, and so that's how they get paid. I mean, just emailing and those type of things. So I just don't want to really get caught up in all of that.
I have I agree with Stephanie. I would like some clarification on that. When we discussed this before, the initial discussion was about a program like the workforce program, and not that I don't think football or equipment is needed. The program was like a working program, so I'm not sure why a football field or a basketball goal would be needed in a working.
And so let's get a real clear point, Frank. I don't know who the heck put that in there.
Oh, no, I'm not speaking to you. I was speaking to.
Oh, really? Because the county doesn't even run those type of programs.
Yeah.
And so for me, I propose the work program, where all this other stuff came from. From my understanding is this was a reply back from the trust, because when I read that, as I told Lindsay in the meeting, we don't even run a sports program at the county. So, I mean, I don't even know why that language was included.
And I agree, the city programs, because we already have the after-school program, I believe $200,000 or $300,000 of the after-school program with the city was going towards equipment. So we already are funding that type of equipment at the community centers already that are within the city and the county limits. So I'm not sure how we would venture to equipment. And the last $500,000 or $495,000 we gave, they put towards sidewalks. So for me, the trust issue is there as far as how we are sending that money, and if we already gave them over $400,000 and none of that went towards programs for kids, my concern is how much and what percentage would that look like? And do we get to see that before they spend it, or are we just cutting the check to them and then they send us what they spend it on? Because I'm not comfortable with that wording.
Well, and I'll mirror what Meredith said. So I had some previous conversation with Commissioner Kohler last year when we were going through this back and forth. And he had asked the question at that time, like if we had a multi-use field, and I think he said this a lot at the meetings, you know, we need soccer goals so our kids can get out there and play. Would that be permissible? And I was like, absolutely. We call that equipment in our world, or supplies. And so I do think, and Meredith and I did discuss this too, the infrastructure word I think is incorrectly placed. I think that is probably something that we need. I think that the intention is around those type of things, to create opportunities for kids. When we did the original interlocal agreement, we for the 1 year, we were really looking at it from that youth employment program perspective because they had a shortfall there. It doesn't have to just be that. If there are other youth programs or children's programs, just like the city has in some regard, that the county runs, it should be able to be utilized for that as well, I would think, because it meets the measure of what we are doing. So we can make it broad and say whatever youth services, or restrict it right down to the youth employment program. And really, that I think would be for the commissioners to ultimately decide how those dollars were divided up. If it was to be something different than the youth employment program, that was just our initial offer. So we've kind of gone back and forth now about looking at it and hearing that there needs to be other after-school programs in other areas of the community that currently don't have them, and these dollars could be utilized for that. So, so I have that. The other thing, and let me just give me this 1 second, Ms. Woods, but from my understanding and the minutes from that meeting, and Commissioner May, this is where I may need your clarification, is we were looking at a 4-year agreement, so we did not have to come back in January again, right, to have this same discussion? Okay, and so that's been changed from the county one that we received, so we can go back and revisit that. Was that your understanding of that? There was a lot of back
That's the
and
most
forth.
logical thing, I would think. I mean, because if we don't do 4, I mean, we're going to be right back here
Yes.
in 2 months.
Yes.
Having the same discussion.
Okay. And I'm comfortable with that. We don't know what those dollars will look like, but we would definitely get the assessment and be able to look at it that way. So we would have an extended waiver through next year as well.
So initially, when we first started this process, the mental health grant was a grant that, from my understanding as being a board member, was something that what the county wanted, or that's part of the reason why we did that $3 million grant. So the fact that we're paying them money, I feel like we've paid that money twice. We did not have an interlocal agreement, but the understanding from the previous executive director and programs person was that was the direction we were going, with the understanding that that's what the county wanted. Now,
Toy,
of course,
let me get a point of clarification. Who at the county wanted the mental health grant? Where did that come from the county? I mean, I serve on the county and this board. I don't recall the county requesting that.
okay, I'll go back and find.
I didn't, and I know it's never been a vote. I don't think the county requested that at all. In no way did the county request that. That's, I mean,
That was my understanding. I will.
I don't know who it's, well, let me just clear it up. The county didn't.
Okay, the county did not. So then when we are looking at the grants for the summer, we'll make sure that that is an understanding. And whenever we were at the program committee, I thought we were talking about a certain program and how we were going to spend it. So now we are we got more broad with that, and that is a point of concern for me, because when we get broad, we buy sidewalks. I did not go to the last county board meeting, but I will be sure to be at the next one and express my concern with that, and also, unless my son has a baseball game, because that is more important for me, my family. But unless I have either work obligation or my son obligation, I will be at that next board meeting. And again, my understanding was that. So if that was not correct, then we need to circle back around with that, and I would like clarification on how it would like to be spent, because when we put that broad explanation out there, and if we aren't, unlike board or trust funds with our providers, they have to give us the receipts and then we reimburse them. With this, we're not getting the receipts and reimbursement. We're cutting a large check for a lot of money and hoping that they spend it correctly. And as a board member, I am having to approve that, and that is my name online, and I'm not comfortable without, understanding exactly how it's going to be spent. And that's just me. I know I'm one vote. I know we're not voting today, but my trust in not going to children's programs is very high based on the last money we gave, and it went to sidewalks.
For the record, I mean, and so I think there's been so much misinformation. I don't know what money was ever used for sidewalks that came from Children's Trust. I mean, by statute, CRA is a CRA, whether it goes to DIB, whether it goes to Children's Trust. And the reason a TIF was created was to improve the infrastructure. So to be clear, if one person has a voice, that's a voice. The motion that I simply made, and I think that it was in defense of this, is to use the money only for youth programs. And initially, I said for the summer employment, something came back different, which I am open for youth programs. I'm probably not going to, although I don't think it's wrong, and I think statutorily it will stand up in court if we want to go spend a couple $100,000 in fighting it. But I think that the intent is for children, and we should be spending the money on children. I think that we're getting caught up in talking about the administration of those funds that come into the CRA dollars. The county is providing a program, and we really don't know what the city has been funding as an outside agency, as well as their discussion of what they're going to do with their CRA dollars. The county was not funding as one of the outside agencies to the Children's Trust, but they are, and so firsthand, I know that they are providing today, right now, at 5 community centers throughout the county that would not be served. Children who are employed, who are working, many who are here are working, who live in area housing projects, would not be having a job. We're doing a graduation of a block-by-block program of young people who have not been able to get jobs, who are probably going to graduate in EMS and HVAC today. And so to me, Tori, that's where those dollars would go. And, that's where, my motion is going to be, and hopefully, we'll get some support with that to make sure that those dollars stay in the youth. So if anyone said that it's gone for sidewalks, that's just untrue. I mean, it's 5 of us, like there's 9 of us, and each of us have our own opinion on this board. And so each commissioner can have his own opinion of what he wants. And nothing is final until we make a motion and it's voted on.
So did we not get clarification on how they spent the $400,000? Or 400
Yes,
plus?
we did get an accounting of it.
And what was that?
It was, there were sidewalks and speed bumps, I believe some lights, but there was also some that were put in reserves for future projects, and that was for last year's TIF.
And how much was that? 400?
443,000.
Okay.
Who
So-
provided that, Lindsay?
It came from the finance department. When we got the next TIF request, we had to have that back, especially for our audit, because we're audited every year. And they sent it right over. I mean, it's.
And that may very
Yeah.
well be true, but there's I don't even see how they would have got that money and allocated as much money as in reserve. And I'd be curious to know what districts and how it was spent and where it was spent, because I've never seen that.
Well, I'll definitely get that to you.
Yeah, send it to me.
I'll have it.
All right.
I think we just want to do this and have an emergency meeting if we can to get this finalized, and we can just move forward and help the kids who need the help.
Well, and we can, sorry, go ahead.
That's it, yeah.
So we can clarify, and Tori, I hear you as well, like what is the plan? Because initially when we got the TIF request, it had it outlined, like these are the sort of activities that we would like to do. So maybe that's part of Meredith and I's work, is to follow back up if there is other youth programs that are going to be included, or do we want to just do the youth employment? I love the youth employment program. I think you guys know that. So we had looked originally at expanding that too. So, but those discussions that the commissioners have amongst themselves, and, you know, some of those dollars go to different districts or whatever. So I think that that's part of their negotiation point. So we were responding to that, which was, okay, if there's other youth programs outside of the youth employment program that need to be funded or could be funded or expanded, this would be an opportunity.
And I have no problem with that as well. I just would like clarification because initially what was brought to us is now not what is being brought to us, so.
And we'll definitely follow up with
Well,
that.
what do you want to see? What do you, I mean, if you had your ideal world, what would be your motion if you were making a motion, Tori?
I have no problem with any youth program that the county has. As long as it's a youth program or a service program for children, I'm not opposed to that at all.
Well, I think that's the motion that was being made, and you know, I hadn't read through this interlocal, but I think that's probably, well, let me not speak for anyone, but that's probably what I'm going to support.
The problem is we don't have a quorum.
Oh, well, I'm saying from the county perspective. I mean, here's the reality of it. We're going to resolve this or we're going to end up in court, and it doesn't make sense, and we'll spend more money.
I love going to court to help protect funds for children.
Yeah, but I don't think that there's anybody, and I can't speak for our chair, I don't think there's anybody that has not said that they wanted the money to go to children. And so, I mean, you'd have to show me that on the record. I know what I've said on the record.
Well, yeah, not you. I'm not saying you. I'm just saying in general, I believe in protecting funding, and it's also setting a precedence for the rest of the state. So if we have to fight to set a precedence on how funds need to be spent to protect children, I have no problem with that.
My big concern, I'm going to come back to this again, is this is of significant relevance to the community, to the taxpayers, to the children that we serve, and that we keep that in mind. And Commissioner, you'd had to step out a few moments ago when I was reflecting on the definition of civil discourse. And I'm going to reflect on it again with the request that you would carry this concept to your colleagues on the board of having to do a dialogue on matters of public concern characterized by respectful and productive communication involving mutual airing of views with the aim of promoting understanding, seeking common ground, etc. And that this be done that way. I will also reflect on Ms. White's having been at that last meeting and you were at. There was a considerable amount of disrespect and disregard for the comments that this board tried to present to that group, and that's just fact. Anyone looking at that video of that down, I've had more people contact me about the showing of disrespect and the poor behavior of some of your colleagues on that board and anything other than the definition of civil discourse. If they are asking for this significant amount of money, well over $1 million, I think it needs to be done respectfully, collaboratively, recognizing that we all are working towards the same thing of providing productive services to children. But to be up there and to be relegated to a 3-minute presentation with a clock running, to be cut off in the middle of comments, to be told to sit back down, that type of thing is not at all in line with collaboration, with reaching common ground, with understanding the wants and needs of the groups. And before I put my signature on a check for any amount, I am going to need to feel that my views have been considered and have been allowed to be viewed and aired publicly on my behalf. And if that is not the case, then I regret to say that we may be talking to Meredith and to the county's legal, because again, for my signature to be there and to be supported that we are doing the right thing to the best of our abilities on behalf of children in this community, there's going to need to be respectful, productive, collaborative dialogue, not limited by a clock or timing device or otherwise, for this to take place. So thank you.
Since You referred to me. I would not respond had you not referred to me. I don't think there's ever a time when you ought to be rude to people. But
I did state that this was your colleagues, and I will say you sit in a precarious position at times, but the behavior emphasized by the chair of y'all's board and by more than one member of your board, excluding yourself, was not in line with the concept of civil discourse and being here to have civil discussion between these boards to benefit children. And that just did not take place. And again, I will clarify that you were not in that group that was treating members of this board in that way. And I thank you for that. I will publicly acknowledge
thank you, Dr.
that.
Northrup. And you and I actually saw Larry at Lowe's last week. Didn't get a chance to speak with him, but you've always demonstrated the highest level of respect and decorum. And I try to do the same. We can disagree, but we don't have to make it personal. And I sit on both boards, as you said. I can only be responsible for my actions. I can only be responsible for the things that I say, and I try to, advocate for those. And so I would say to you that, I probably would not carry a message to any of my colleagues, nor would I bring a message to any of you individually. I'm happy to say publicly what you've said, and I'm sure they're watching right now. It's on television, but, I can't, I represent the constituents of District 3 who elect me, and I try to do the best of my ability, and I try not to get into the conflict with others. We can disagree. I've been pretty clear on my position and my stance. It's unwavering in what I've said and my commitment. As Rodney was saying, I've worked in community centers for the last 44 years of my life, and I go there. I don't go there 5 days a week. I go to a community center or rec center 7 days a week, probably for the majority of my life. So I know how important they are, and I know how important youth programs are, not just sports programs. And so you'd have my support. And if someone's being rude, I think that the meeting was unnecessary, and I think that's why we should try and get this resolved.
Yes.
It's kind of like any deal we do. We just let the outline fill 8 after 12 years. Whenever it becomes a public debate in a public forum, and it becomes politicized and it becomes emotional, and there's really no good results that's going to handle. That's going to happen. And so I will not pass that message on, but I will say it in a public forum. What you guys have said, or I will refer them to go back and listen to this meeting.
Yes.
And again, but I would hope that I would never, be rude to anyone in a public forum, unless they're rude to me. And then, I believe in reciprocity. So if someone's mean to me, I'll be mean to them. But my mother always said, it's just always to be nice. And I just think we should be, whether you're sitting on the trust board or whether you're sitting on the county commission, you should be nice, nor should we send threats to each other.
Yes.
Because at the end of the day, it's the people's money. And then we should advocate the people's money. The people voted for the money to help children, and so we should be helping children. And, the way in which you help them may be a little different than the way that I help them. But as long as we're helping children, that's great. And I've said this from the beginning. We're having this political discussion about CRA dollars at the county, and we've not even come to a landing at the city, and so it makes antagonistic between the county and the trust, and we should all be we should be together. I don't know. It may be childcare. Maybe all this money needs to go for what the mayor's done, but we should all be working together. And so hopefully we'll get it resolved. I've not gotten involved. I'm not talking to the lawyer. Because I'm on this board, I'm trying not to negotiate on any side. So any of the things that's going back and forth between our legal and their legal, I'm not privileged to it. And so they may have sent it, but I'm not going to read it. But I think with what I've heard today, I think we'll find a resolution, Mr. Norton.
Thank you. And thank you for your service on the Board of Commissioners as well. And we appreciate that. Any further comments from other members of the board? And we did run over a bit. My apologies extended to the group, and my appreciation to everyone for their participation. This is how government works, and sometimes like watching the sausage being made, but it's part of the process. So thank everyone for that.